Good morning, students. Good morning. Can you hear me, students?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Very good morning. I can see only three students have joined so far, and also there are a few minutes to go towards the lecture. Concept the concept that we are going to take up today is issues in implementation of strategy. So far in all the 3.5 or 3.75 units, we have studied various aspects of strategy. All right, and that have included external, internal resources, environment scanning, and whatnot. We have been studying so many things. Also, we have studied the various models with the help of which we can pinpointedly decide on a strategy, work towards the objectives of the company. All that we have already done. But the essence of strategy is in this fact that how beautifully and meticulously you are able to implement that strategy. Whatever effectivity quotient your strategy may have, but if you are unable to apply it verbatim to your business, it will hold no good to you. It is, like, it is my favorite example. Like, I always give this example. You have created an amazing timetable that is totally based on credit, and it absolutely covers the entire syllabus per se. But if you don't follow that timetable, is it any good? Anyone? Students, are you there listening?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So do you think that a timetable that has been created so thoughtfully, so meticulously, will give you any benefit if we just fail to, uh, like, follow it honestly? No, na. So every strategy basically gives us benefit only when we are able to uh, apply it totally. And today in this topic we'll study that what are the glitches in proper implementation of a strategy. So there are few very, all right, before coming to that, let me tell you, these slides that we are taking up today are neither the property of NDIM nor have been created by me. These slides are basically authored by Dr. Fred R. Devitt, who is a very renowned strategist. So today we are going to, study from his authored slides. So let us first go through few very important quotes that will give us a perspective. So the first is, a management truism says, structure follows strategy. However, this truism is often ignored. Too many organizations attempt to carry out a new strategy with an old structure. Now, what does that mean? Let me put it in a very, very simple way. Now, you all come from a family. In a family, usually there are a set of parents, like one being mom, one being dad, and you all are children. Okay. So, you know what happens? Suppose there is financial planning happening every month. So, whatever decision your mom and dad unitedly are taken will only be reflected upon the upbringing and training and development of you people. Are you getting what I'm suggesting here? If your parents every month are spending money on getting you dance classes, automatically a part of your schedule will be invested in dance classes. And most likely, in your personality, you will imbibe the skill of dancing. So basically, the structure will follow the strategy. Now, is the example clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
right, good. So, if an organization really wants its strategy to succeed, First thing it really needs to pay attention is to create the right structure. If you want to go online, you want to create online lectures, first you have to understand that everybody in your environment has got a laptop or a smartphone for that matter. So strategy and structure basically go hand in hand, and a structure follows a strategy. So the learning here is, if you want to go on a new strategy, please ensure that you also update your structure. You can never make the new strategy work with older structure. Is the message clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is one glitch.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so this is
Yes,
one
ma'am.
problem that presents itself when we really want to talk about implementation of the strategy. Now I'm taking you to the next next thought that we will be discussing. Yeah. So in most organizations, the top performers are paid too little and the worst performers too much. Now, I again have got a favorite quote, students. And the quote is, there is nothing more unequal than treating unequals like equal. You know what does that mean? Anyone?
Ma'am, please can you repeat?
Remember that when I say treating unequals like equal is not a good thing to be done. I need to identify the top performers and I have to basically acknowledge them likewise. You know, right now the quote is talking about paying them. But when I explain this quote, understand payment not essentially only in cash, but in all the ways. You need to promote them timely, you need to offer them acknowledgement, you need to appreciate them, you need to recognize their efforts. As in, whosoever is performing, you need to show that yes, I'm observing. Are you now getting the meaning of it?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes,
though,
ma'am.
yeah, and in real world, what we end up doing, just in the pursuit of creating an equal kind of company, we just try to treat all the performers as equal. So effortlessly we demotivate the performers and we totally encourage the non-performers. You know, we tell them, okay, go ahead, don't perform, because eventually I'm a good person, so I'll keep on recognizing you and I'll keep on the roles in my company. Do you think a unit like company that is solely working for profit can afford to work like a socialist? That was too much of like, all right, I'll repeat. A company is one unit that is where people have come together for earning penny. That means profit. So for somebody as a company, it is unrealistic to work for socialistic goals without creating difference between performers and non-performers. So this is one glitch again, that companies don't create difference. They pay less to the top performers in comparison to their performance and more to the worst performers in comparison to their performance. I hope the point must be very clear by now. And now I'm moving on to the next important thought. Successful strategy formulation does not guarantee successful strategy implementation. Now, it is an amazing thought, and I started this lecture with this thought only. So, students, basically, like I already said, do you think planning alone will give you result?
No, ma'am.
Not at
No, ma'am.
all. Never. The planning alone can never give you result. So what will give you a result basically?
Planning with team.
Ma'am, directing.
Sorry? Directing what?
controlling the planning which has been formulated.
Budget.
Basically, the whole management process.
All right. So, all right. Very, very well, very valid point made. But please understand, controlling, directing will happen. But first of all, you need to create a machinery to implement the strategy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, like for example, it is a say it is a you know a mm, mm, mm. suppose there is this fabric store. My favorite fabric store again is in the example. So suppose you want to open a cloth store. So how will you first you will devise a strategy and then you will create a structure to implement that strategy. You will need a cashier, you will need somebody to show the clothes to the customer, you will need somebody, some peon kind of person to offer water, coffee, tea to the people who are visiting your store. So you cannot just prepare a strategy and think, okay, now onwards things will take their own way. That never happens. You have to create a strategy implementation, then only you can guarantee that the successful formulation will happen, all successful returns will come to the strategy. So I hope you, this point is eventually very easy to understand, so I hope you have understood it. Now moving further, is strategy implementation more difficult to do something, a strategy formulation easier to say going to do it? So what is the difference between the two? Anyone? What is a strategy implementation when I say more difficult to do something? All right. So this novel COVID-19 happened. We saw Italy failing miserably. We saw US failing miserably. We saw so many things happening around us. And then we heard our Prime Minister telling people that, I will be able to control it. He said so, didn't he?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
It was very simple to say that, okay, I will announce a lockdown. Okay, I will close these many industries. Okay, there will be no traffic, no airlines, no railway, no this, no that. But when it really came down to implementation, what did we see? A pizza boy basically handling over corona along with pizza to 72 families.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So can you see the difference between formulation and implementation? When it is formulation, things are easier said. But when it comes to implementation, they are difficult done. So when we are talking about issues in a strategy, we really have to be very, very aware of these glitches. Now, let us take all these very detailed points one by one. Are we on the same slide that talks about management issues? Yeah. So you can see
Yes,
a
ma'am.
table in front of you, strategy formulation and strategy implementation, right? So when you talk about strategy formulation and strategy implementation, let us really go and address points one by one. So positioning forces before the action is formulation. Now let us create a case over here. When Modi comprehended this entire lockdown plan, he must have devised a machinery in his own mind. There must have been a point when he decided that police forces will do the controlling part for me. So he thought that I have got thana in practically all the localities, so I'll be asking these police people to work as barricade for me. And in implementation, managing forces during the action. So I thought about thana was the formulation, but when I actually divided the locality per thana, knowing about the number of people assigned to that thana, and then actually working on creating the barricades within the locality, that was managing forces during the action. Can you understand this example?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. So with this example, you can understand how formulation and implementation are different in terms of managing the forces. Now the next point of difference could be effectiveness. Now both these things definitely talk about effectiveness, but in formulation we are only working with estimates, right? We are only predicting the effectiveness, that all right, this seems to be an effective option, but how much efficiency will that choice actually deliver, we will only know when we are into the implementation part of it. Right or wrong? Can I get a
Yes, ma'am.
feedback?
Right.
Yeah. Now
Yes,
again,
ma'am.
yes. Now let me again back it with an example. So there is this, very good renowned medical appliance creating industry in Kanpur, and they work hand in hand with IIT Kanpur engineers. And these people devised a safety suit for people for coronavirus social, helpers. So all those people who are working towards maintaining safety, security, health during these times, this suit was supposed to be given to them. So while formulating, I decided, all right, let me assign 10 crore of rupees to this agency for preparing these suits and distributing it among people, so that the safety of my health workers is ensured. So this is effectiveness of the suit I'm banking upon. But eventually what happened, when people whom I gave those suits actually wore them and went to the hospitals to take care of the corona patients, we realized by the end of 2 days that 4 of those doctors themselves, got infected by the corona. So now the actual efficiency comes into the picture, and we realize that it is not that efficient as we expected it to be. Is the example clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And why am I touching upon this point? Because now this will become a problem for me. Because I have already invested 10 crore of rupees that I could have invested somewhere else on a better gadget. I invested my money. My money is gone. And the kind of effectiveness I was expecting is also not there. So this becomes a very major glitch in implementation of the strategy that I formulated. Now I hope you have understood the point. If it is a yes, say. Is it a yes? You have understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So now let us move on to the next point. That is basically talking about the faculty that is involved. So students, in formulation of a strategy, the mental faculty is involved. The intellectual faculty is involved. However, in the implementation part of it, the operational faculty is involved. And what is operational? Clerical faculty is involved. An intellectual is a leader, an operational is a follower. So what kind of quality are we indicating here? Suppose there is this again, this same firm where from we bought those safety suits. Now there was a R&D cell wherein all these 12 to 15 scientists are working, and then there are workers in the factory where 5,000 workers are working. Scientists devised a suit with all the security measures in place, but when it actually came to the factory, The mechanics couldn't really make out what is expected of them, and they missed on few security measures. So the operational process failed. However, the intellectual process was wonderful. Are you able to get the meaning of this difference? I repeat, intellectually, the scientists were very advanced. They created in mind a suit that is totally safe. But when it hit the factory, the design, the idea, when it hit the factory, the operational workforce could not recreate the same model in factory. So there are so many things that are intellectually possible, but in operations, they are not possible. Is the message clear to you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
this is, yes. So this is another glitch, when it comes to when we are please go on mute. I don't want to buy sabzi. Next point is requires good intuitive and analytical skill, the formulation part, and requires motivation and leadership skill in implementation part. So here we are indicating the difference on the basis of skill requirement. So when we are formulating the strategy, when we are planning, what do we need? We need good intuitive skill. What is intuitiveness? What is intuition? Anyone? What is intuition? Anyone? No one. All right. What is analytical skill? Let me take the attendance. My
Analyzing
class can be this silent.
analyzing a set of data and bringing an observation to it.
Sorry.
Observing and getting some results from analyzing a situation.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Makes sense. Go ahead. So,
Ability to understand basically.
all right. So, I have just taken the attendance and I was wondering that all right, I'm not wondering anything. So students, good intuition is having the power to comprehend what is beyond. We all are blessed to have a set of eyes, we are able to see. Still we end up seeing things differently or wrongly. But then when it comes to planning, we really seek people who can comprehend future that has not yet occurred, right? And also not only estimating or foreseeing the future, but also having that intuitive skill to know what lies beyond, because planning is all about future. And what is analytical skill? Analytical skill is the ability to critically evaluate the situation and know totally that what is going to be there lying ahead. So when we are talking about strategy formulation, we are having a set of people who are able to see future and plan accordingly. But when we are talking about implementation, we are totally focusing on motivation and leadership skill. The answer is very simple, because here we are dealing with a set of people who are not self motivated. Their skill is only to follow. And why will they follow? You have to convince them to follow. And how will you convince them to follow? By motivating them. And how do you motivate them? By telling them that, look, if you are able to do this, this is your personal agenda that will also be served. Do you really feel you will be able to convince the people working in your factory, look, Bharat Mata will be pleased if you prepare this product? Hello? Can you
No,
do
ma'am.
that? You remember how miserably Make in India campaign failed when we just tried to tell people that don't buy Chinese good. because it is not made in India. And very often people will come back to us to tell us, stop buying goods from them na, गरीबों को क्यों बोलते हो महंगा सामान लेने के लिए? We will buy Chinese goods because they are सस्ता. You remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so it is very difficult to motivate people to follow your strategy unless you don't have good leadership skill. So for implementation, we need leadership skill that are very good with motivating people. Now moving further, for strategy formulation, we need coordination among a few individuals. But when it comes to implementation, it needs coordination among a lot of people. Lot of people. And trust me, students, this is the biggest glitch. Why? Again, I'm going to quote your favorite example here. Lockdown was planned by a few individuals, and it is taking lives of those leaders to convince many persons to even stay home. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, ma'am.
People just want to go out even if it is for plain simple worshipping. They can stay put there in their houses and do as many worshipping as they want to, but still they want to challenge this entire process of lockdown because they feel their camaraderie will totally be challenged if they unite at, if they don't assemble at a place and do common prayers. So it is so difficult to coordinate with so many persons. And that is the major glitch of the strategy being failing in terms of implementation. I just hope I have made all these points very clear. Now I welcome questions if any. If you have any questions, please raise it quickly, else I'll be moving to the next slide. Tick tick one, tick tick two. Can't hear any question. Going ahead. All right. So next is, all right. So transition to strategy implementation. Now let us address these points one by one that are going to help us understand the various management issues in terms of okay, so we have got just 10 minutes left to our credit. Let's use them wisely. So our transition to strategy implementation, shift in responsibility from strategists to divisional and functional managers. Implementation problems may arise. You know, when there is a group that is working towards making planning, formulation of the strategy, there has to be a transition in their roles also. If they really want to understand the glitches in implementation part of a strategy, they should very swiftly be able to, you know, come from manager from a strategist role to the functional manager's role. Only then they'll be able to understand what are the operational problems, and when they know the operational problems, they will be able to find out the solutions, and then the strategy implementation will be totally, at least partially possible, right? So this kind of transition is very important. If this is not happening, this is a management issue. Taking you further to the next slide, important implementation concerns. Managers and employees motivated more by self-interest than organizational interest. So let us understand this point here. Students, very often you will meet such people in your own company. For a second, all right, let us take a very domestic example and try to use it towards the corporate world. So right now you are all in your homes and you must be going through the daily chores your mother is running. So you know there are so many things that your maid would have been doing it when she used to come, right? The housemaid that was coming to your place once is not coming now. Now she might only be staying 2 houses, away, but she chooses not to come because it is her self interest to observe this kind of leave. When she feels everyone else is also observing leave with pay, why can't I observe leave with pay? Without even realizing that rest of the people will be using public transport to reach to their office, that will 10,000 contribute to spread of COVID. But she only coming to 2 houses distance would hardly transmit COVID, right? Is this example making any sense? So clearly, this is one employee who is more driven by self-interest of staying home with salary instead of thinking about the organizational interest, where she knows that if she could make it to your house, your mother will be safe from so many troubles, right? So you will see it happening in many companies, that people are driven by their own interest, their self interest, and they put organizational interest in the second row. They would not want to attend trainings because they feel if they learn to if they learn to update themselves, if they are trained to handle better situations, they will be given more work with no increase in pay. So many a times employees create their own world and their own self-interest, and they start putting organizational interests at the second level. So that is one important concern that makes a strategy fail in implementation. Next is need to involve divisional and functional managers in strategy formulation. There is this another important point. Whenever there is this strategy in formulation, we should always make a point that operational and functional and divisional managers are also included in the process. Because when they are included, we are able to receive the first hand feedback that is happening at the shop level. And when we know what is happening at the shop level, then only we'll be able to decide accordingly, so that we are able to draw best of results. I hope this point is clear to you. Now I'm taking you to the next slide. So management issues and strategy implementation: establishing annual objectives, devising policies, allocating resources, altering existing organizational structure, restructuring, re-engineering. This slide will continue. What we are studying here right now is we are talking about the way strategy is formulated, and then one by one we are going to understand that what glitches we'll be facing at each level. So it is a long discussion, and I think I'll be taking it up in tomorrow's lecture, because if it is lost in between, we'll lose the essence of the concept. So now let me use these remaining 4 minutes for addressing your questions, if any. So the forum is now open.